recently, one of our viewers asked us to cover the OKboomer meme. And so, of course, we're going to give our people what they want and talk about it. So what is it? Why is it trending? Well, as we all know, things don't really become a thing until the New York Times acknowledges it. I'm being sarcastic there, but the New York Times recently wrote a piece called OKboomer marks the end of friendly generational relations. Now, I don't know where the New York Times has been because I don't think there have been friendly generational relationships at all, or relations.
Ever.
But the piece says the following: OKboomer has become Generation Z's endlessly repeated retort to the problem of older people who just don't get it. A rallying cry for millions of fed up kids. Teenagers use it to reply to cringy YouTube videos, Donald Trump tweets, and basically any person over 30 who says something condescending about young people and the issues that matter to them. So a really good way to help you visualize this is the next video that we're about to show you. Take a look.
The millennials and Generation Z have the Peter Pan syndrome. They don't ever want to grow up. They think that the utopian ideals that they have in their youth are somehow going to translate into adulthood, and that somehow they're going to create this utopian society in which everything is equal, in which the government takes care of everything. Well, guess what? One of these days, just like the baby boomer generation, the generation before us, the baby busters who came after us, you're going to mature and you're going to realize nothing's free, that things aren't equal, and that your utopian society you created in your mind in your youth simply is not sustainable. It's just a reality. You can't escape it, you can't fight it. Hell, even the hippies came to realize their society was not sustainable. So just realize what you're creating in your mind isn't sustainable.
I love that video so much because while Glenn Beck's doppelganger is going on this rant about how we all need to be realistic about how unfair society is, keep in mind that it was his generation that lied to us, right? About, if you just work hard enough, if you're willing to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, you can become a millionaire, billionaire, you could do this, you could do that. I mean, they're the ones who fed us all this garbage about the American dream, right? And I call it garbage because we all know what the reality is. Like, we have record inequality in America today. And it's partly because of the type of tax policies, the type of economic policies that older generations passed. And so like, take some responsibility for how you guys have created this mess. And when I say you guys, I don't mean all boomers. And by the way, boomer is really thought of as like a mentality here. It's not necessarily in regard to the specific generation. But just like think about how destructive those policies have been for the economy overall, but especially for the economic opportunities for younger generations.
Well, you make a great point, Anna, and I agree with you. But I do think, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of trouble for this in the comments, I don't care. What he was saying is right though. So I know a lot of younger millennials and Gen Z, right? And there is a sense of entitlement for sure with this younger generation than there was for generation. What was the generation before millennial? Y, right? X.
Yes,
God,
yeah.
my alphabet's off today. And it's because growing up, I was told that yes, you do go out and work hard. Nothing's gonna be handed to you. You go to college. If you want anything in life, you had to go out and earn it. Whereas what I'm seeing now when I interact with Gen Z and millennials, younger millennials and Gen Z, it's not even that. There's a sense of, well, I should be given this just because I'm showing up, or I can do the bare minimum and still be hyper successful. And I see that daily. Yeah. So yeah, while not all, it's not safe to put everyone in a box and say they share these mentalities, because my mom's 66 and she could be a millennial because I think it's a state of mind, how you think. I do think what Glenn Beck's doppelganger was saying, there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that.
Yeah, look, I think that there are two different things at play here, right? So first off, I do agree that and this is something that me and my best friend talk about often because it's surprising to us, and we didn't treat our new jobs the same way I see other younger generations treat. So like, yeah, you come into a new work environment and the idea is I'm new to this, I wanna learn, and then once I learn and I have a little bit of expertise, that's when I can like really chime in with ideas and things like that. Yeah, you're right, there are people who come in and they come in guns blazing and they're just like, no, I know better. You know, my friend is a licensed therapist. She has gone through graduate school, she's gone through, and that took a lot of experience in addition to her schooling.
And sacrifice.
And she'll literally have interns come in and tell her how she should do her job. So I get that perspective, but for the sake of this conversation, I think what really irritates younger generations is this idea that they have the exact same economic opportunities as generations before them, but things have really changed. You know, whether you're talking about the unaffordable prices of housing, the fact that wages have remained stagnant, the fact that, you know, people in the working class and middle class pay a higher percentage of their earnings toward taxes than the wealthiest people do. So those things are legitimate concerns that have created this wealth gap in the country. I think those legitimate concerns get brushed off by those who have taken advantage and exploited this system far too often.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, and also for the sake of conversation, I agree with you 100% on that as well, because there are, you know, I would say now more than ever, I keep saying younger millennials because they are younger. Gen Z, these are like kids, right?
Yeah.
But they have a unique ability to galvanize and mobilize when it comes to enacting change. You know, climate change. You mentioned college.
The march for the gun violence.
Absolutely.
I forget the name of the movement.
Stoneman Douglas.
The March for Change.
Yeah,
March for.
It's so they are so aware because they have what older generations didn't have: social media, internet, access to a lot of resources that weren't readily available or easily available for older generations. And I'm not glazing over that at all. I just think that this conversation happens a lot, like OKboomer, because they're older, and I think that there is an element or maybe a tincture of arrogance, or like you said, I know better, even though I don't, that the younger generation doesn't want to shake off. But who's not to say that won't happen in time the way it happened for us? Because in the 90s, when I was younger, I for sure
we were invincible.
My pager was lit. I knew better. And through experience, failing and realizing that, hey, life isn't the utopia that I thought I was living in, I've come to be more realistic. I think that generation will happen too. It'll happen for that generation as well.
I just want adults to be honest with today's youth, right?
Yeah.
So don't sell them the same nonsense our generation was sold. Like, look, I don't want anyone to pity us or pity me specifically, but this idea that if you work hard enough, you're one day gonna become a multimillionaire or multi-billionaire it's just a lie, right?
Why is it? But I'm not.
This was gonna be my point.
Okay, go for it. Sorry,
Jayar.
Because you're starting and you asked the question I think I'm gonna answer. So it's if you go to a car dealership and this guy sells you a busted car, you're like, hey, take this garbage back. I'm not paying the $25,000 for this. The millennials, Gen Zers, anybody who's been sold this American dream that was provided to a certain extent before for only certain people, because they had their problems with civil rights trying to get by, because only certain Americans also got this opportunity in the American dream to a degree that many of these younger folks don't now.
I love this B-roll.
If you suddenly see that your whole life, since you were born, we're like, you're an American, be proud, land of opportunity, home of the free, brave, do this. Do things right and you're gonna make it. Many people do things right and don't make it because there's many other factors that are a lot of times are pushed on us by other folks, stronger factors, rich people, police,
race.
And people don't get to where they would have gotten. And then they say, stop complaining. You're like, listen, you sold me a lie and now you want me to be happy with it. Because one of the big arguments from a lot of, the Gen Z X's, the boomers like to say, is that I worked hard, I didn't get any breaks, I broke my fingers, I got out of college and then I did this hard job that almost killed me. Hey, some of your friends maybe did get killed in those jobs, maybe got maimed in those jobs, and they didn't get where you got. They end up in wheelchairs and end up living off of their disability for the rest of their life, which wasn't much. So we forget those people and we want less of that to happen. We want a little bit more equality, or that opportunity that you say we have in this country, at least give us that. There will always be lazy people.
Yeah.
You can give everybody an opportunity. There's always gonna be a certain percentage of Americans that will be like, yeah, I don't feel like working, and they're not gonna make it. That's up to them. At least give them that chance.
And look, let me get super specific on what irritates me the most, right? So if you got to take advantage of housing prices in Los Angeles, where homes were literally being sold for $60,000, you don't get to turn around and tell me, oh, you're buying too much avocado toast, that's why you can't afford a home. If you were able to go to college at a time in America where public colleges were free, or like $10 a semester, you don't get to turn around and wag your finger at students who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, because they literally have no choice. They didn't have the same options that you had. So I think like those are legitimate concerns that far too often, like James Carville at Politicon was on a panel with Kyle Kulinski, and he thought the idea of canceling student loan debt was insane. I mean, the guy, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, except I kind of am, is like, I don't know, 100 years old, right? So he was going to school at a completely different time. Sure. Okay, yeah. So for you to say, oh, that's ridiculous, you don't know what it's like to have to dig yourself in this giant financial hole just to get a decent education.
Well, he's mad because he had to do it. It's like, if you went through the hazing of a frat or a sports team or something, and then the new rookies come in, you're gonna go, I'm gonna do the same thing to him that got done to me, because I'm not gonna be the last one to take this whooping,
It's a chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, you're like, I went through this, so you have to go through it, or else you're not gonna really get it. The last thing, I'm gonna let you finish, I promise, Doug.
Yeah.
There's the ageism thing, and I mentioned this earlier. There's ageism going both ways. So the younger folks will say, oh, you boomers, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't even work Twitter, right? And there's some truth to that.
Very true.
And there's truth also to older folks saying to the I can remember these folks now, Millennials and Zers and everybody, they're saying to them, hey, you guys are exposing yourself too much on the internet. You might not really wanna do that, because we had this level of making sure you know what you put out there is gonna stay forever. So there's this free-flowing nature from younger folks, and there's this cluelessness a lot of times from older folks. And ageism has its purpose, I think. Sometimes you can learn from each other.
Yeah.
There's this middle ground you can hit.
Thank you, yes,
there's things
absolutely.
that each group does wrong, and everyone's so angry at each other that there's no.
There's no meeting in the middle. There's no meeting, and I see that a lot, and it becomes, you make a great point about the ageism, about how the older generation has this chip about how hard it was, and I love how you brought up, 30 years ago you could go get gas for 29 cents. I do think that the younger generations, millennials, Gen Z, the younger Gen Zs, they are very resilient in that, and they will make a way. But Jayar, I'm glad you brought, because that's what I was going to say, is that there needs to be a conversation that allows for both parties to benefit each other, because no one's wrong here. I mean, I think no one's wrong. People may be misguided, but no one's wrong. But I just find it interesting though how now more than ever, I'm just seeing it with younger generations, the entitlement, and it just disgusts me, because it's so vicious. It's almost as if, and I'm a little envious of it, to tell you the truth, because I wish I grew up in a time you had brought up different elements that hold people back in life. There's being LGBTQ+, being a woman, being black, being not a non-white, a non-POC. Those things, anything, right? So I envy a lot of the, I know we got to wrap, a lot of this younger generation who has that, can sit back and be like, oh, I'm getting that. I'm absolutely, as a matter of fact, I need to check now before I even walk into the building.
No, and by the way, I get that mentality exists. I totally hear you. I think that and I think that is a problem. I don't know what percentage of younger people act that way, but we've all experienced it. So I acknowledge that exists. But I do think that we're kind of talking about two different things. And the frustration that I think overall young people in America have is just like the lack of opportunity and the lack of awareness regarding how those opportunities have been destroyed through this economic system.
And I get that. I understand what you're saying, because they're living this life. They're moving through the world with these experiences 100%. But my point I was making is just that I think in the context of OKboomer and how they feel, and how the baby boomer generation feels that this younger generation is completely remiss in everything, a conversation could hopefully stifle that and come to some kind of resolution that'll make everyone happy.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.